Hi, my name is Joe Dupont-Roche, and today I'm going to discuss the function and the purpose of Lady Bracknell in the play The Importance of Being Earnest. Now, this is an image of Lady Bracknell in the 2002 depiction of the film. Now, as you can see, she's very classic Old English with the feathers on the hat and the fur on the jacket, all sort of very expensive, and jewelry and all that. Sort of gives you an idea of what kind of attitude she has in the story. Now, who is Lady Bracknell? Well, Lady Bracknell is the mother of Gwendolen. She's also the aunt of Algernon, who is one of the two main protagonists in the story. As I said, she's the mother of Gwendolen, who's Jack, our other protagonist's potential bride-to-be. Jack, in the beginning of the story, has actually come into the city with the sole purpose of proposing to Gwendolen. Now, Lady Bracknell really presents the old Victorian England, the old sort of Victorian ethic, very strict, very severe. Now, what is her function in the play? Well, her function's actually quite simple. She just simply represents the old Victorian England. She's not interested in anything progressive. She's not interested in any sort of change. And she's extremely materialistic, as we saw with the feathers and the fur. She cares greatly about about one's heritage. She cares greatly about one's wealth, about one's estate, and about one's occupation, and less so about personality. She resembles what Old England used to be like, overpowering and very commanding. For example, England's colonization of a mass portion of the world, where they would just invade. They'd come in, they were rich, they had all the resources in the world, and so they could basically just say what they wanted and it would be done. This is very heavily depicted when Jack wants to marry Gwendolen. But Lady Bracknell just simply dismisses his proposal as though it were just false and not appropriate. And Lady Bracknell demands that Jack be properly interviewed so she can ask him and see how much money he has, what his occupation is, what his estate is, etc. When Lady Bracknell says no, much like a dictator, it means no. You really have that sort of monarchy-like resemblance in Lady Bracknell. No one dares oppose her. She came from nothing, even though she seems to have forgotten this. She was basically a peasant, and yet she married Lord Bracknell, and through marrying him, she inherited an enormous amount of wealth and power. And so now she refuses to accept the idea of Gwendolen marrying down, because this would undo the hard work that Lady Bracknell has done by acquiring ladyship, which is actually quite ironic. She's also not the sharpest tool in the shed, if we're quite honest. She doesn't understand how Jack could have possibly lost his parents, even though Jack is an orphan who was forgotten in a handbag by his mother. And so he doesn't know who his parents are. He doesn't know where they are. So he says, well, I don't know where my parents are. And she doesn't understand this. She doesn't understand how someone could possibly not know where their parents are. And so she tells him that he must find his parents before the end of the season if he wants to have any shot at marrying Gwendolen, which is also very ironic in this scene. Lady Bracknell also becomes sort of completely and utterly ridiculous in her wishes and in her demands. She is completely dead set on not allowing Jack to marry her beloved princess of a daughter. She has completely forgotten that she too has come from not much before and married into her wealth. She did not work hard for her wealth. But all of a sudden, when she learns that Jack is actually her nephew, and she's the son of her older sister, and that his real name is actually Ernest, which is an old sort of fancy English name, immediately she changes her mind. It's as if Jack, or now Ernest, has become a totally new person. And this new information, it's as though Jack has suddenly become an honorable, acceptable member of society, just on this new information being discovered. We also have a parallel situation in the story. We have sort of two of these situations, although this one sort of took the back seat, as the situation with Algernon and Cecily. Cecily being Jack's sort of not daughter, but sort of the girl that he's responsible for. Algernon falls in love with this beautiful Cecily, but Lady Bracknell, once again, does not approve, because she doesn't know if Cecily has money. She doesn't know where Cecily comes from. But finally, when she learns that Cecily has a ton of money, Lady Bracknell describes her as being the most attractive young lady that Algernon should definitely marry. Well, in conclusion, Lady Bracknell never really achieves anything in the play. She just makes life harder for others, much like the old rules in Victorian England, and much like the old rules that have sort of fallen away now when it comes to marriage and stuff like that. She represents old sort of parents back in the day, where her opinions had to be respected, and they are the truth, and nothing else is the truth. And she simply provides a visual for the frustrating old Victorian ways. Thank you for listening, and have a great day, and happy holidays.